Hello, how's everybody doing this morning or this afternoon? 1:30. This is a little odd. Usually I stream at 8. But I had this idea. I've been wanting to work on it, and a lot of people have had positive feedback. Thank God. Is Rumble working? I hope Rumble's working. Say hello to me, Rumble, because yes, it is working. Rumble. So StreamYard was not playing well with Rumble, and so I tested it out, did a little preview video, and people love you. The joke is Steve's written an article on it, right? And I've got tons of articles, but I want to talk about the writing process, about how my history of writing, how I get from here to there, and then I want to basically work on my fantasy novel a little bit in front of you with a blank page and give you an example of how to write. Now, this is something who I'm thinking about with this too is I met some friends, West Virginia family, and they had 3 homeschooled kids, and they are really sharp. And so I feel like I'm going to be doing this for you. So you can use this in your homeschool, maybe talk to your kids, because writing is not something that's easy. It's not something that comes naturally to most people, nor did it to me. And I know that I write a lot now. Part of that's my job, but I want to at least walk you through the process and do it together so that we can so maybe this will help you. Maybe it's useless, I don't know, but you're here, you see the art of writing. And I'll just give you a little preview. First of all, get rid of all your devices or distractions. Of course, here I am. I'll show you. You want to be in a beautiful environment, your work environment. When I first started, I didn't like to write. I was not a writer. I in undergrad, college, we had these blue books, and all of our exams were essays. I can't say I was really good at that. We had papers occasionally that I'd had to write. Can't say I was really good at that. I did go in, I started writing newsletters for the Realtors Association, the Home Builders Association, doing desktop publishing, but that was more design and I did do some writing, and I would occasionally write an article, maybe it would be a couple pages in a newsletter for our realtors or our builders. So I would do that, and we won a couple national awards. I won a national award for our newsletter when I was with the Daytona Beach Area Association of Home Builders. Of Realtors, Daytona Beach Area Association of Realtors. I won a national award there. And then when I went to the Home Builders, I took my ideas, redid their newsletter, and we won a national award from the National Association of Home Builders, NAHB, and we won a newsletter award for them. So that was pretty cool, and that was pretty. So I did have some desktop publishing background and some content, but a lot of those I put that together. All right, so that's the next thing. Then I went to law school. There's writing involved in law school, and I got a little better at it, and I wrote motions and things when I went into private practice. So I would write, okay, and when I was in college, I wrote poetry, and I was a creative writer. Law school kind of beat that right out of me. I will say that I learned how to write technically as a lawyer. And writing technically is a different skill set. It's kind of like more mathematical, more structured, it does not reward creativity, and it's very tight-fisted, okay? Creative writing is very different. Now, I can say I lost a lot of my creative writing when I went to law school and practicing law, when all of my writing was law-related, all right? And now that I was in appeals, I actually, I went and got my master's degree in criminal justice from University of Central Florida. And one of my objectives for getting my master's degree, in fact, aside from just getting the piece of paper, my primary objective was learn how to write academically, because I wanted to, buff my credentials, know how to write scholarly articles. And during my University of Central Florida, I learned how to write academically. And in fact, the book Ideas and Answers in Law is the culmination. This is sold already. And actually, he wanted number 7 of 9. So this is 7 of 9. If you want to this is 7 of 9 right here, but not the board. But this book here is a compendium of most of my academic articles that were published in law reviews, plus a few extras for you special buyers. And so I did. I learned. So now I know how to write legally. I know how to write academically. I can write structured appellate briefs, which is formal technical writing. This is sort of a form of academic technical writing. All right, so that was that book. Then, of course, this was a very personal book, but I do know how to write. But the thing is that this sort of writing beat the creativity right out of me. All right. So now I'm working toward, but you set yourself goals. How can I improve myself? Communication, how we communicate, how we express ourselves. This is an important feature of life, right? And I'm also a musician, as you can well know. But musicians kind of require you to play in a band, and it's difficult for me to ever commit to any kind of group situation like that. Very difficult, and I'm just not. The music career didn't go anywhere. So I want to learn, but I do have a creative spark in me that I want to get out there. So developing that creative spark, said I want to learn how to write creatively again, or relearn, or be better and do it well. Now I will shout out to John C. Wright and his wife Lamplighter, who are great writers themselves, science fiction fantasy authors. I'm a big fan of science fiction and fantasy. When I was a kid, I was a dungeon master for Dungeons and Dragons and had a lot of ideas that came out of that. So I'm a big fan of fantasy, especially. I do like science fiction, but it's not my bag. I don't think I could write science fiction. But fantasy is something I like and I could do. Now, so on this journey of writing, death penalty debates is more right. You know, that's a public policy debate book. But The Summer Friend, I also have written histories of my family. I don't know if I have that right here. I should get those. But I have books of my Aunt Evelyn. It's called Evelyn's Story. I have my Uncle Buster's story. I have a lot of my family. I have written family histories about them as life. Now that's nonfiction. So I write nonfiction. This book, The Summer Friend, is pretty much a nonfiction book. Now I edited it somewhat as a practice. I took this story from my life in part of my story that I've written, and I've extracted this one story about this incident that I think has some appeal. I originally wrote it for my son when he was in middle school, but he's like, Dad, I don't need that. It was real. So it didn't quite have the effect, but I had this story and it wasn't really that great, but I had the structure of an idea. And then what happens is that gives you that, but I use that as a practice vehicle to learn how to write dialogue, to create a little fiction. Also, I wanted to use full color, and I like producing works. In fact, people say, do you enjoy writing? I enjoy the product. I enjoy the end product. I love having a book that I've written that I'm proud of, that I've done my best. It's almost there's a religious element to it, that you do your best in all things, and creating something positive and good for the world that's full of truth and full of the best that you have to offer. That's what it is. Okay. But The Summer Friend is my friend Rock did the cover, but it's a simple, it's called a novelette. It's a short novelette. It's a little sweet story about, but I did that sort of as practice to get my fiction writing better. Now, Brucey the One-Eyed Wonder Dog, and okay, this is the first thing I want to talk to you about, is something like this. Now I have My Difficult Dog already written. It just hasn't been illustrated, and I've got a Give, Send, Go campaign set up for that. But Brucey, okay, I wrote Brucey. This was actually a flash of inspiration. A flash of inspiration came through, and I wrote this book in one day. Now I did edit it a little bit. I went back but pretty much the book was written in a half a day. Now getting it illustrated and put it together was a monumental effort, because I want it to be the best I can possibly get. And I know that I would not do justice to little Brucey. So same thing with My Difficult Dog. My Difficult Dog was a flash of inspiration, but the inspiration comes from, this is a true story also nonfiction, but then overlaid is a philosophical view. There's a Christian message behind that. And this book has to do with the Serenity Prayer. So I integrated the story itself with the Serenity Prayer. And when I had written the original story, it kind of just came out, it's Brucey's story. But then when I took the Serenity Prayer and I integrated some of the language from the Serenity Prayer into the actual book. So I've got the full Serenity Prayer at the end of the book that you can read, but also some of the language from the Serenity Prayer is integrated into the story. So I want, in order to have something decent written in a nonfiction sense, or in a fiction sense, you want to have the story, and then you want to have an overarching theme, or you want to have a meaning, a character arc, a something that's transcendent. So just hearing a story about somebody walking down the road might have no meaning at all. But if that person walks down the road and there is some purpose to that, that gives the story meaning, and it gives it a depth. Who wants to read about the guy walking down the road? Well, what is he thinking about? What is he observing? What is he doing? Why is he walking? What is the journey of this person? What is it how is that meaningful? So you want to have meaning. What are you trying to communicate? That's and so in Brucey is a good example of taking a story and then integrating a higher meaning and a higher purpose behind it. All right, so that's that. Now I'm working on my fantasy novels, and I'm getting better at writing fiction. I'm getting better at writing fiction. What do I mean by that? It's actually, I think it's much more difficult. Nonfiction is hard, and you will see my struggles as we work on this together. So I'm going to bring up a blank piece of paper, and I'm going to tell you about what I want to do, okay? Oh, and Just Jurors is a good question. Which of your books you've written is your personal favorite? See, it's hard. That's like saying, who's your favorite child? But if I had to pick, it would be between Prepare and Brucey. Prepare because that's kind of my personal philosophy, and Brucey because I love that Bruce. I want a children's book, and to me, if it's kind of connected. This sounds odd, but Prepare is kind of my philosophy of life and how to deal with things. And one of those things is doing your best and training the next generation to have faith. And Brucey is my gift to the world to try to give you as a parent a tool to teach your children faith in a way that's not too heavy-handed. It's a subtle story about a cute little dog that every kid will love, but it also has a religious faith meaning. So those are, if I was going to guess, those are the two. My most successful book is Ideas and Answers in Law, because people know me from law tubes, and that's where I've been primarily promoting my books. And they're interested because, like, who am I? I'm nobody, but I am qualified. There's very few people that have the level of work that I do as a lawyer who are streaming. I'm board certified criminal trial lawyer. I'm actively in the practice of criminal law in Florida. I've done hundreds of appellate briefs, and I'm doing death penalty appellate briefs. It's pretty high level criminal law stuff. So I recognize that that's my primary value to a lot of of people that are watching my stuff and are interested in my stuff. But for me, that's work writing to me. Okay, that's stuff that I'm doing for work to better myself professionally. But when I better myself personally, that's important. That's Prepare and Brucey. And so those I would say if I was going to put my two favorite, it would be these two if I had to pick. Ideas and Answers, I sold more of those. Death Penalty Debates is more of a broad public policy thing. Summer Friend, is a practice, and I think it does have a very subtle message that doesn't get told, and it's an enjoyable novelette. But I would put it in that sort of discussion. Yeah, and Danielle is here. Thank you, Danielle. So are we ready for some stuff? We're ready for some writing? All right, let me give you the setup a little bit before I put pen to paper. First of all, the writing process doesn't just come from just out of thin air. Okay, now I have a concept of what I want to accomplish today. So, and it's not, you don't set goals. And if you read Prepare, Danielle, you'll know this. You don't set goals for yourself like, I'm going to write the whole book today. All right, that's not happening. I've got 40,000 words in the bag, which is a lot. 80,000 is typically a novel. So my first novel is halfway written. I will say that I have the overall framework of 3 books already mapped out pretty much. I understand what the character arcs of at least several of the characters are and where they're going to go, what they're going to do. And what I've been doing is, so once I have the major arc of the framework, I'm now illustrating within that framework so that those coherence and there's a beginning, middle, and an end, right? Sort of Eric Clapton said this about his guitar solo. Well, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. And that's the same thing with a writing. And each one has a peak and a valley and an emotional slide. Now, I'm a very visual person, and I'm a very auditory person. So when I say that, I want to, what is it? Where was I going with that? Beginning, middle, and end. Oh, and so I think when I imagine my creativity, my muse, usually comes to me in imagery. So there are certain scenes. One of the things that inspired me with this fantasy novel is certain scenes that I have created that I can visualize. I can see the characters. I can see them doing things. I can see the environment. So part of that is looking inward at the imagination and drawing out that scene and painting the picture as coherently and eloquently as you can for the reader. And in fact, I think what we'll do is we'll read a portion of my fantasy novel also. So we'll read, I think I might have done that before. There's one scene that I think is pretty good. And we'll do that at the end if you guys remind me, okay? So to lay out this fantasy novel, I have a character. One of the characters' name is Gorson. There's a lot of characters, and there's a much deeper structure. I'm not sure how far we're going to get into, but I have a character named Gorson, Gorson. He's the son of Gore. All right, and his grandfather's name is Neer, Neer. So I have a lineup, I have an age. I've developed a list of characters, their ages, their general descriptions, what they do, who they are, their personalities, and you breathe life into these characters, and then they start talking, and they talk amongst themselves. It's an interesting process because once you get the character and you kind of understand what they are, and they say, well, is this you? All of the characters are me. They're an amplification of a personality trait that I have now projected into the character and made extreme. So all the characters are pretty much elements of something that I would think or ponder. But Gorson he has faced a situation. I don't want to spoil too much of the story. I don't want to tell you too much. It's a long way to go, or a long ways off. But he is in this city, and he is sort of a minor nobleman, not in the inside. He's an outsider within this city. And for various reasons, people turn against him, or the city becomes a difficult place for him to live. So he decides he's going to close up his little house, pack it up, board it up or whatever, put his backpack on and travel to another city where he has a friend at this other city. Now there's a coastal city and there's another coastal city. So when I first thought about it, I was like, okay, he's going to walk. But I think that and like I said, the first part of writing is thinking. So I'm thinking about this character, and he has to make this journey. He's got to leave the city. So what's he going to do? He's going to go and journey to his friend's house, and his friend lives in this other city, which is a smaller town, but it's also a coastal port city. That city is a mining town and a fishing town. As where he's at now is the capital. So he's leaving the capital to go to this other city that's that's second, in placement, not as populous. But I was going to have him walk. But instead of walking, I think he's just going to take a ship. He's going to take a boat because his position within the capital city is tax collector. He is a tax collector for the ports of this city. So he is going to get on a boat and travel up to the minor city on the port to go visit his friend. So what you're going to see is him leaving this town. What we're going to create today is him leaving the town, going to the port at which he worked as a tax collector at the port, right? And he's going to leave that port, get on a ship of some sort, and go up a couple days' journey by boat up the coast to the secondary city where he's going to visit his friend. All right. So I've been thinking about this. That's what I need to accomplish in my writing. All right, we got the setup. So let's pull up a blank piece of paper. Okay, hold on a second here. Present. Share screen. Blank piece of paper. Can you see that? My old Word document, nothing there. Okay. So let's just throw down some ideas. First of all, we're going to say chapter whatever. We don't know. Chapter number. And we're going to say, and I like to get the concept down. Okay, so like whereas Gorson must leave the capital. Oops. Can you see that? Let me make it a little larger. Let me embiggen this here. Make it a little larger so you can see. Yeah, let me see here. Make it bigger. All right. Yep. Got it. You don't need to take notes. Just follow. Well, you're welcome to contribute to help me out here. I got this from Megan Fox. She occasionally writes online. I thought it was kind of cool. So this will be available for rewatch. Okay. Gorson must leave the capital. Whereas Gorson must leave the capital city. And see, this is not that. And he visits his friend, or maybe I'll say to visit his friend. Right? To visit, I'm taking a chance doing this, visit his friend up the coast in the second city, right? So that's sort of our idea. All right, so where does he start? Now, here's another, I've been thinking about this, and I think he can start in his house and then walk to the port, or we can begin at the port where he's entering the port. So where are we going to be? And what we can do is I'm not sure which one's going to work, so I'm going to write both. I'm going to start at the house. He's going to walk, and then he's going to go to the port and find his ship. Now, the thing is that when I write it, it doesn't mean that's the way it is forever. This may or may not find its way into my my book, but I will also note that I tend to get to the point. I tend to write I usually write in reverse. I write where I want to go first, and then I end up at the I write then back. So I start like he gets on the ship, right? Gets on the ship. All right, but that's where he's going to end up. So I'm already seeing where he want to go, but I don't want to write that because that's not where he's going to start. Let's say he starts at his house. Okay, so let's say, the heavy oak door slammed. No, we don't want to say slammed. Let's say, so I'm imagining, okay, he's closing this door, and this door is sticky, and he's got to pull it closed and lock it with this big key, right? That's his thing. The heavy oak door. So that's the subject. That's the word. Now, again, these are like, I'm being very descriptive. It's heavy, it's oak. Now, do I like heavy? Maybe I can look at a synonym here. Difficult, extreme, powerful, strong. The strong oak door. Or let's look at synonyms. The durable, the sturdy. How about sturdy oak door? The sticky, the sturdy oak door. Or let's say, how about this? Gorson grunted as the sturdy oak door, or as he pulled the sturdy oak door into place. All right. So can you see that? All right. He's going to say much better font size. Okay, good to see you, Rumblers. Yeah, so it's a warp, but it's a sticky door. So, and then let's see. He grunted. Maybe he grunted. Fumbling with the large iron key he grunted, fumbling with a large iron key. Someday he should fix that door, he thought. Okay, now at what point am I saying too many he's and what too many Gorsons? Gorson thought. All right. But today was not that day. Today, he was leaving behind his home. Okay, is this boring to y'all? I mean, you understand? Gorson grunted as he pulled. Behind his home. He was leaving behind his home. I don't know. For how long? The question hung in the air, unanswered. No way. There was no crystal ball for his future. His throat tightened with an ache. There was a no people in the future. That's pretty good popcorn power, right? I wish he pulled the hood further. Actually, he's an average kind of guy. Right. Okay. So future Miss Martin. So see, these are all good questions. You're asking the record. Throw tie this. 8. Had he lost his home forever? He grunted, fumbling with a large iron key, let's say, from his pocket. So let's see. Let's put this thought depressed him. Depressed and angered him. He spit a curse. He spit a two grunted. See there, that's editing. This is just he spit a curse at his, it's not fate, it's not situation, it's spit a curse at his lot in life. No, it's not that. He spit a curse at his I don't know. He spit a curse at his, and then what I'll do is I'll put a little, if I get stuck here, I don't want to get stuck in my spot. So I'll put a little he spat. So I'm going to put a little, see, I just right through. When you get stuck at something like that, don't invest too much. Don't invest too much in that thought. Just put a bracket there, and you will get, and I'll come back to it. Okay, and I've got I've got 2 words of grunts, 2 grunts. He grunted. Yes, so let's look at a synonym for grunted. Okay, let's see. Sunday, but today's not the day. His throat tight. He lost his. This president. He grunted. Okay, so we're going to say he grumbled, fumbling with a. There we go. At his fortune. See there, we got popcorn power. Right, I love it. fortune, fortune. Let's keep that. All right. we can try these synonyms over here too. Situation, condition, circumstances. I think I want circumstances. I like that. Or it's circumstance. I think so far I like fate and circumstance. So let's put that in there. Placing the key back in his pocket. Person turned. Looking quickly both ways. Both ways. That's not really good, but we'll just put it in there. Looking quickly both ways for signs, or let's say for eyes. None appeared to notice him. Covered his head with the cloak. Misfortune. Yeah, there you go. He covered his head with the cloak and strode deliberately or deliberately. You get, yeah, nice spell checkers. Deliberate. He strode deliberately. I don't like this, but I'll put towards the port or the harbor, the river. He knew this path well. Collecting taxes from the boats. This is all bad. Okay, what you're doing is you're just throwing it down there. Collecting taxes from his boats. No, I don't like that. Let's stop that. He knew this path well. I can see popcorn. You're rocking it, man. You got some good ideas. Yeah, see there. Look at that popcorn power. You're a good writer. With the key back in his pocket, Gorson turned, looking quickly both ways for eyes. None appeared to notice him. All right, do this path well. Let's describe the path. The road, it angled downwards. The road angled downwards. Let's make a descriptor for let's see, the cobbles, the road, the cobblestone road angled slightly downwards. Until the wall, the angle until the wall, until the city walls separated. or let's say to the city walls, that separated the city proper from the port area. The walls were built originally for city defense, but now represented a dividing line between the port area proper in the old city itself. Now, okay, let's save this. Okay, we save it as, I'm going to save it over here as my fantasy novel, chapter X. City walls split the polite urban. See, popcorn power. I'm going to hire you, man. City walls rudiments, but now divide between the, I like that, polite urban. Polite, oh, that's nice wording. Polite urban, the polite urban something. And the rougher port slums. I like that. The old city itself lay within the walls, including the magnificent White Palace and Cathedral. All right, now let's go back a little bit. And now, so that this, we've got a couple paragraphs already, right? We've got to save that. We got to save it regularly. Now, look in, let's go back here a little bit. And now because we're creating this as we go. Now, this is just a rough. I'm just throwing down ideas, kind of visualizing what's happened. Now, all that's happened so far is he's closed the door, locked the door, and then looked around, right? But is this enough? Okay, well, one of the things you want to do is say, I write very technically and very methodically. Bing, 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 bing. So my things tend to be, he did this, he did this. So you want to, in a fiction type situation or in a novel, you want to make action words. Now, everything's past tense. I have a problem with tenses. I have a problem with descriptors. I have a problem with action words. Lawyers tend to be third person passive writers. So I have to, and we're getting better at that. I haven't done that initially. Okay, but here we go. Let's look at our key words. Gorson grunted. So here's your noun and here's your verb. Your verb wants to be an action word. So an action word, grunted is an action word. Grumbled is an action word. Turned, okay? So each one of these things is an action. So he grunted, he grumbled, he turned. All right, that's really what he did. That's the action, right? So you want to pair up those things. You don't want to have, okay, for example, in a legal brief, let me rewrite this first sentence as if I was doing it in an appellate brief. Okay. Appellant, or let's say Gorson, hereinafter appellant, oops, appellant, or let's say witness 1 testified that Gorson, hereinafter appellant, grunted while pulling the door closed. there was conflicting testimony as to whether the key was in his hand or he retrieved it from his pocket. Regardless, appellant locked the door and turned. Placing the key in his pocket. Okay, so there is now each one of these conflicting testimony, and each one of these, and I'm going to put a record site. So we're going to put like records, actually it would be a trial site because that's a witness at trial. So trial number 130 or 1256. And then here's conflicting. So this would be there would be a string site that would be multiple. So let's say witness 1 from 1256 or 1256 to 1257. But then there was another witness between 1345 and 1367 who testified differently. And regardless, they both agreed that the key was in the pocket when he turned. Okay, so we'll put here and then 1345. This is assuming that this came from live testimony of witnesses. So in an appellate brief, you could this may be the way you would write the same paragraph. All right. Witness 1 testified that Gorson, hereinafter appellant, grunted while he pulled the door closed. There was conflicted testimony as to whether the key was in his hand prior to exiting the residence or whether he retrieved it from his pocket. Regardless, appellant locked the door and turned, placing the key in his pocket. Thereafter. Okay. This is a technique that would be, say, the same paragraph as told from a witness stand in an appellate brief. But we're not writing boring stuff like this. We want to make this more entertaining and interesting. So now we're assuming that we've already been introduced to Gorson, all right? But we say he grunted as he pulled the sturdy oak door into place. How about into its frame? Is that better or is that worse? He grunts, pulls into its frame. And I don't like this he grumbled because it doesn't go good. So we're going to fumbling with the large iron key from the large black, because I see that key being black. Good. See, now we could put here, this is what I would do normally. The lock clicked. All right. As he turned the key, all right? But let's think about this, because that's not really good. That's a little boring. The lock click as he turned the key. Okay, I get it. But what we're adding here is we're adding sound. Okay, so we have color, black. That's one sense. That's visual. And then we have clicked. So that is a sound. I like the idea of putting a sound, but I don't like this as he turned the key. The lock clicked. Do we need to put as he turned the key? Or is that implied? Fumbling with a large iron key from pocket. How about I don't know. We got to think about that. Hey, let's go, Brandon. How you doing? I told you I'd do a inspirational stream here. All is well. You didn't. I won that battle, I think. Well, maybe the end you got a little bit on me, but thank you for all your support. Present tense would be more exciting. Okay, now there's a good question here. Ski has a very good question. Well, whoops, I'm sorry. The lock clicked with the key turn. A popcorn power? Are you a writer? I'm impressed. The lock clicked with the key turn. That's brilliant. Okay. The lock clicked with the key turn. Okay, lock clicked with the key turn. I like that. I like that a lot. Very good. Now, is that better as 2 sentences or 1? Fumbling with the large iron key from his pocket. He fumbled with the large iron key from his pocket. The lock clicked. Which one would be better? We could do fumbling. He fumbles, so he's fumbling it here, right? Actually, you know what? English was my worst subject in high school. There was 4 tracks in high school. There was bottom, there was middle, there was the second to bottom, there was the top, and then the top 2. There was 4 tracks. I was placed second from the bottom in my English classes from 7th grade to high school, through high school. Only in my last year of high school did the teacher named Dr. Fisher bring me and my buddies up to the front of the class and says, "You were in the wrong class," and bumped me up to honors, in which I did better. So but this is a process of editing. Fumbling with a large iron key from his pocket, the clock clicked with a key turn. Is that better? Should we break this into 2 sentences? Someday he should fix that door, Gorson thought. See, now this is something I could not put in an appellate brief, right? Because this is something that is sort of out there. Okay, but today is not that day. So this is sort of internal dialogue that's going on. It's oh, bye upon the horizon. Good to see you. Sorry, I'm not reading chat so much. This is the thing. When I get focused, I focus on what's going on right here. So we're going to read at the end of this. I'm going to read you something that I'm kind of happy with and where I've come out with, and maybe Popcorn Power, you can help me. Will help me. This is all in the drafting. But I want to add sound, color, right? Let's put a smell in here. The walls were built in an analogy language represented. The city proper is at this. I'm fixing these things. Accomplishment. Salty fish smells reminded him of the fishing docks. Well, let's smells. Let's see if we can get odors. That's good. Stinks, senses, sense. Let's do odors. Salty fish odors. Okay, so we can put this here, but we want to put a smell in there, right? You want to talk about different senses here. Different senses and put them together. Okay, represented. With a key. I would normally write more. I'm focused on these 2 paragraphs because this is what we're working on. I would bring him all the way to the town. That's the fact. I may do that when we're done, but I want to make this an interesting stream for you because I want to teach you more than just get it written, because writing is more of an singular project, right? See, look at red pen. The stone road is close enough to the water's edge that he could still detect the slight fishy tinge to the air. Okay, I love that. But I like some of this. Okay, so let me see what I can come up with on some of that. I like the a slight fishy hinge inhabited the air. Inhabited it. How about drifted in the air? Hung in the air. There you go. Hung in the air. A slight fishy tinge hung in the air. I like that. That's pretty good. That's better than this, don't you think? Okay, so let's dump that. Hung in the air, hung in the air. A slight fishy tinge hung in the air. Perfect. I love it. Okay. Now, what else can we talk about? He leaving behind his home. Gorson, but today was not it. Today he was leaving behind his home. So I've sucked you in. Well, good. I'm glad you're here. Today he's leaving behind his home. Now, do I want to talk about his home? I've already talked about it in other places in the book. It's a simple stone home. It's an older home. It was part of the old city. How much do I want to put in there? Or is he instead, this is more about his emotions of having to lock his door and leave his area. So I think I'll leave the descriptors of the home out. I do want that there's a familiarity of this path going down, right? Because this is where he works at the docks. Although today he's going to the docks for a separate thing. He's going there to leave town, not to collect taxes. There was no crystal ball for his future. His throat tightened with an ache. Okay, I'm not sure. The questions hung in the answers. His throat tightened with an ache of nostalgia. Is that right? Or is it his throat tightened with an ache of loss? How about the ache? The ache of loss. Will he see his home again? When would he see his home again? I think that's good. This thought depressed and angered him. He spat a curse at his misfortune. Okay, here we're going to make this a separate paragraph. We're going to say, what is he thinking? He's thinking about his enemies. His enemies are like, he spat a curse as his misfortunate. Misfortuned. So let's do that. He's angry at these people. He's angry at the nobility. He's angry at specific people. So he's spat because it says images. Now here I'm going to bring up something. Okay, let me see if I can't. I don't know if I can bring it up here. I should not. I should stop sharing for a second here. Okay, we stop sharing. I have to bring up some of my planning. I don't want to reveal to you all my character names. All right. So what I want to do is I've got a whole list of nobles and noble houses within the city. And one of these nobles are going to be his enemies. All right. And I'm going to go over here to now let's go back and share, present, share screen. How fun is this? Are we having fun? It's a little different, isn't it? No, how do I share this? Chrome tab, entire screen. Hold on a second, cancel. Is it up? Present, share screen. I don't want you to see that. I can't show you that. I'm sorry, I'm fiddling with the computer. Present, share screen. Okay, back here. Okay. Images of Belantry and foolhardy gusto. All right. Let's say resentment weld as images of Valencia in his foolhardy gusto passed through his mind, something his mind. It penetrated his mind. His Valencia in his foolhardy gusto. About this, resentment weld with memories of Valencia and his foolhardy gusto. All right, now I'm going to go over here and then I've got another. Now, I don't even need to choose that right now. So I can say, what a fool he had been. Or how about, we don't even need to say that. What a fool, because he's angry, so you want to have shorter sentences. When you have shorter sentences, it's more choppy, right? More action. So what a fool he had been. What a fool. What a fool. He's cursing. He's angry, right? What a fool. But had he followed that fool? Okay, so he's gonna have internal thoughts here about his situation as he's leaving town and why he needs to leave the town and the feelings. All right, so I want to. Okay, that's what we're gonna show for now. I'm gonna jump on over to. Hold on a second here. Make sure we got things right. I want to show you now. I'm going to read you a part that's more fully developed. Okay, this is much more fully developed. This is one of the sections that I'm kind of happy with, and this is a different character. Hope I didn't click that off. Okay. Is starting a suggestion. I can do whatever I want, but yes, you're right. Kayla, you want the action, right? All right, so that's just a couple paragraphs, and kind of you want to keep fiddling with it. And see, this is a good question. I don't like, and what I do is I write passively. I don't write enough descriptors, so I have to add in that flavor and that salt, and I have to edit out boring stuff. I have to edit out the passivity. I have to add color, use ly words. See, we didn't do that, but I want to use ly words, meaning he knowingly, he lovingly, okay? I'm going to go over here. So now I'm going to show you a portion of the fantasy novel that is a little more completed, okay? And this is, or at least I should say, this is a draft, but it gives, we're just focused on 2 paragraphs. And the object here, I want you to give you some insight into writing for whatever it's good. Maybe your kids will want it, maybe you, I don't know. It's just because I think it's a cool idea. And I saw Megan Fox do this, but I can't write the whole thing right here, but I can show you a chapter or part of my chapter. Okay. And see how I've got it organized by chapter 1.271. Okay. And this is because I have an overall story arc. And then as I dumped, what do you call it? Ideas into it, I have to get more and more precise and more divided. So I could keep subdividing. I could do 1.1, 1.2 if this idea fleshes out. And then I have the wherein, which gives me a cue of what I'm trying to accomplish with this chapter. I'll probably delete the wherein part when the novel gets done. It's a guidepost so that when I'm looking around in my book, I know what this chapter is about in a quick read, what I'm trying to accomplish with it. All right. So this is the idea. Where in a monastery ejects cleric Tati into the world to follow her own path. All right. So how does this work? So we have this woman, cleric Tati. She is a sister of the way, and she's in a convent type thing, and she's like misbehaved or she's leaving. They're kicking her out. So what does she start with? I am here to serve, only second to Reverend Mother. All right, so that's what she says. Tati made sure to qualify her statement of loyalty, as did all initiates of the order. In the order, 3 similarly dressed women bowed in practiced formality. The center woman spoke, quote, another break with our ways, Tatiana. Do you believe in the way, child? Prefect questions had a way of providing no clear way of answering without consequence. Yes, Sister Angeline. The rules are for your benefit. They cleanse us and give us connection to others. Have you found another way? No, Sister Angeline. Do you find the way so objectionable? No, Sister Angeline. Speak, Sister Tatiana. My sisters, Tatiana spoke. The way calls me, but the rules of the order sometimes seemed forced. It's hard to explain. The sisters provided the sisters provided the initiate space with their silence. I am not the best healer, I know, but I feel that passive cures do not properly channel my power. Why do we sit passive when evil is on the move? But that is not our way, Sister Tati. The use of her informal name lifted the tension. Our order is one of service and restoration. Yes, and that is the most noble of callings. I want to be one of the order, but why do I lag behind the others? I can feel my power. I know. A glint momentarily flashed in her dark eyes. Power is not what we serve. Sister Angeline cut her off. Tatiana bowed. Yes, sister. The sister, known as Sister Makar, seated on the right. Notice Sister Mia seated on. Whoops. So notice Sister seated on. Okay, there we go. Are you reading along? Or can we got this? Okay. Yeah. The sister, known as Sister Makar, seated on the right, commented, or is it the sister seated on the right, known as, I don't know where that goes, commanded, be dismissed. We 3 have much to discuss. Sister Miri Makar spoke with the finality that drubbed Tati. Not that she could speak of her annoyance at this formal setting. Instead, she lowered her head. The curate bowed again, soft footfalls echoing in the marble-laden chamber. Okay, so we have a bow, a sound, an echo, and a descriptor of the chamber, right? And then here's the sisters talking. Sisters Tati's potential is unmatched. Her dedication to the way is fierce, but she cannot seem to conform to the ways of our monastery. But is this not the way of the most holy Reverend Mother? Most holy Reverend Mother. Has she not known that there are many ways? Yes, you speak the truth, but is Sister Tati's way to be found here among us? She has so much to give, but here we are placing a blanket, wrapping around a house cat. I, for one, find that her place is not with us. The third sister finally spoke. A simple nod and agreed made their decision final. So here, this is part of the same chapter. I will probably compress this into a chapter where Tati exits the order to find her own path. So this will probably be the part of the same chapter, but for organization purposes, I put these together like this, okay? The curate finally gently folded her clothes and packed her meager possessions into a small leather backpack. She finished the packing, placing her spare set of sandals in the top pocket, her modest clothing wrapped with a straightforward rope serving as a belt. She exited out the front door in silence, with the sisters of the order lined up on either side of the hall, each bent in her honor as she walked past. Her exit did not dishonor either her or the order, and the directness and formality of the exit ceremony covered the deep emotions swirling within each bowed figure within. As she stepped out, the sizable doors closed behind her. Sister Tatiana Bukanesh stepped outside the walls for her first time since she had been taken in as an adolescent. The bright sun forced her eyes into a tight squint. Her dark eyes adjusted quickly. I don't like this. Her dark eyes. How about they adjusted quickly? Let's see. They adjusted quickly. They adjusted quickly. Her sight adjusted quickly. Maybe this. And a picturesque landscape revealed itself. Her spirit leaped at the openness spread out before her. To her right, far into the distance, great gray mountains rose above the forest. Wind blew cloudy wisps through the sky from the snow-capped peaks. She wondered at the people who lived at the base of those beautiful mountains. Would they be hunters? Or perhaps they were forest gatherers who fished in the streams and ponds beneath the rugged rock faces. She glanced left and saw a deep forest with trees blocking her view beyond. Perhaps there she would find lumbermen, or perhaps the forest cleared just out of her sight. She turned back to the path which drew a line from the front door from her childhood home. She could see the rolling green hills stretched out into the distance. The hills appeared to have patterns stamped on them, farms dividing the properties with orderly lines. The promise of people, non-order people. Farmers, a village, a town, or maybe even a city. What direction should she go? She swiped a hand across her covered head, dropped her hood, revealing dark black braids. Onward, she strode confidently down the path towards the village. The beautiful surroundings made her forget about the closed gates quickly receding behind her. She traversed a wooden footbridge, her sandals noisily clopping across the boards, the gentle gurgle of the clear stream serenading her crossing. A giggle of freedom surprised her, and she allowed herself a gentle smile. White clouds brushed the sky blue. She turned her face upward and felt the sunshine warming her cheeks. Farms instead of farmers. Okay, let's see. Miles passed under her feet without notice, joy carrying her forward. Soon she approached the minor farming village earlier viewed. See, that's a legalism. Figures in the fields caught her attention and snapped her from her dreaming. She quickly looked backwards and saw her former home far off in the distance. An emptiness entered her belly, and doubts began to creep into her mind. Perhaps she had made a terrible mistake. She just needed a vacation, a time outside the walls, perhaps a chance to meet some people who were not of the order. Perhaps, and the thought shocked her at first, a man who followed the way. The thought of men made her quickly look around, as if her thought lay exposed to the open world around her. The walls protected her, and now she stood alone. No, not alone. She had her faith. She closed her eyes and said her favorite prayer. Tenderness and compassion, a steadfast companion. Rejoice, find courage, help with many struggles and hopes to your faithful. The words soothed her. She inhaled a deep breath and opened her eyes. A more serious expression descended upon her face, one of determination. She turned back towards the village, this time with a more purposeful stride. Several small cottages gained clarity with nearness, and a man called out. She drew her habit over her tight black braids. Mistress of the way, the voice shouted. Take a break for the mistress. Soon a dozen or so of the inhabitants appeared, and to her relief, each face projected expressions of kindness. But what had she expected? The unknown carries anxiety and fear, but people who till the fields and grow food for their families must be of her mindset. She relaxed and greeted the people. Bless you all. Sister, an older woman spoke directly to her. Would you bless us with your presence? Please refresh yourself in our humble home. Thank you, it would be my honor. The delight expressed in her acceptance entered her heart as a gift. Several dirt-covered men entered and bowed in respect. "Sister, forgive our state. We did not expect a visit from one of the order," one of them explained. "Your work needs no forgiveness," she spoke, entering the door of the cottage. Inside a simple room, all timber welcomed her. A loft built with carved branches held, she speculated, a marital bedding. To her left, a large kitchen stretched out across the length of the hall, and in the center was a rough but sturdy wooden table. A middle-aged woman began work, at first chopping carrots. Soon other fresh garden greens were brought into the kitchen. The woman accepted them in silence, eventually combining them into a large bowl with walnuts and goat cheese. Toddy had not realized how hungry she was. When the woman served the salad bowl, she dug in ravenously. Soon the entire village, alerted to the presence of a sister from the way, and the residents appeared one after the other to pay their respects. Taddy returned the respect by blessing each of the folks as they entered the small cottage. The village folks grew quiet, and the young woman entered the room. In her hands, she held a young infant, perhaps less than 2 weeks old. She moved slowly, her eyes appeared drained. The woman spoke. "Sister, my daughter Anna," and she held the baby out with her rough hands that were conditioned for tilling soil, and now were nurturing this newborn. The young woman's brown eyes summoned tears as she laid her daughter on the table in front of Toddy. The child did not move, and only tiny wheezes of breath disturbed the silence. Toddy knew what she could do. The power lay in her hands and in her breath, but doubts racked her heart as she took the infant into her hands. Toddy knew her skills had lagged behind the others. Why was that so? She could feel an awesome power within herself, but she could also feel the great barrier between that power and the healing touch that the training nourished. The barrier cursed her and held her back. She looked down at the swaddled newborn, so delicate, so precious. She had never felt the mothering instinct, but the tiny life under her hands triggered something deep within her, a feeling over protectiveness, unknown to her until this very moment. The people around her kneeled and prayed. Toddy took a deep breath and her heart pounded out protective energy. She knew the silent chant, hands and breath, but the barrier. Her hands covered the tiny body. The barrier. She must. A small trickle of power leaked through. Inward she looked, deeper within. Pry open the gap. Make the power flow. Blocked. Sweat poured from her brow. It was there. She directed the rivulet into the clogged lungs of the little girl baby, the baby that needed life, needed the power that was in her. "Anna!" The pressure grew, and Taddy's nose began to drip red onto her linen dress. Yet the power also leaked out, but not enough. It felt as if a lake was draining through a straw. The veins in her head throbbed. Her lungs gasped for air. She must. Her heart pounded. Her head spun. The baby! An involuntary scream. Was that from her? Blackness. So anyway, that's let's see here. So that's part of one of I'm working on. So it's a lot of reading there. I hope you all. There's probably one person watching, but here we are. So that's sort of a flavor of something that's a little more finished. Now, I picked that portion. I wanted to kind of put these together, see there's method behind my madness, because that's a long passage, right? But it involves a similar thing. She's leaving this place of her home of all the time. And here it echoes in the Gorson, who's leaving his home of many years under different circumstances, right? Maybe similar, maybe different, but there's an echo there between the Gorson character leaving his place in the city and going into the country, going off on this journey, and her leaving her place of protection and entering into the world. So that's a little insight into writing. I'm not certain, I mean, it is what it is. I write, I try to make it visual. I try to make there's an internal dialogue. There's a purpose. They're talking with themselves. They're understanding, you're feeling the emotions through that internal dialogue, which you can't get in a legal writing. Yeah, you definitely, Red Pen says, definitely felt the two large wooden doors in both scenes. Yes. So doors, those are interesting objects, aren't they, as we pass through? You got totally immersed. That's nice. So let me see, what other questions can I answer about? So I don't want to take up too much more of your time. It's 2:45. Boy, how long have I been streaming? About an hour. Oh, it's not that bad. An hour and 15 minutes. I don't know. I get wrapped up. See, I dive in, but you see how the process, it's a back and forth. It's not perfect. You just got to write it out there. And then when you get to a place that you're blocked, put a parenthetical and know what your mistakes are. Know how you tend to write that's poor. Like, what do you do that when you write, what do you write that's like I tend to write in passive voice. I don't write enough descriptors because I'm a legal writer. So I want to put in more colors and more sounds and more, happily, sadly, ly words, which we eliminate ly words in academic writing, right? So I don't know. This is maybe this will be something that you can use. Hit the like button. This is I'm working on it. Like I said, I've got 40,000 words on the fantasy novel, and now probably 40,041, 40,100 because of the 100 words we wrote here together. And thank you for some of the insights here. We've got some writers in this crew. Maybe we'll do it again sometime. Especially Popcorn Power, man. You're pretty good. I like it. So this is sort of an exercise in imagination. And one thing, the dialogue is interesting because that's something that I do not write in any kind of academic writing, dialogue. And Summer Friend, I worked in, but as these characters, I'm starting to know these characters and they become part of your inner head, right? You understand who they are as persons and you develop them and you flesh them out. They start talking to each other and the dialogue kind of goes, it just kind of comes out. It's like, what would they say and how would they respond and where are their perspectives? Yeah, and this is a good, Red Pen's got some good suggestions. When you write something, get the main ideas down first, put it on a shelf for a few days, and then reread it with fresh eyes. It helps much to give yourself a break. I do that in all my writing. And even reading it through with you, there were little edits that I was clicking in there. I don't like the way that says. And reading it out loud can also help you because when it sounds, I want it to read when you're reading it as if you're reading it out loud. You can hear things with your ear that you don't appear on the written word. So those are also some suggestions. Okay, so that was pretty fun. Anybody else have any questions? Let's see. I've only got a limited number of the hardbacks of Prepare and Ideas and Answers in Law. Only limited. These are available on ebook and on audiobook. This one's on audiobook also. However, the hardbacks, there's only a few of these. Like, for example, this one here is, look at that one of 9. So I've got 9 of these, and this one here is 3 of 9. Signed, autographed, and numbered hardcovers only. Usually you just order the regular one, it's soft cover. And these buying these hardcovers will help me fund my my fantasy novel. So let's talk about that. I'm writing the fantasy novel. Now I'm doing the best I can, and I've got the plot, I've got the arc, I've got the characters, I know what they're doing, and I'm going to get it down. Eventually it'll get done. However, I also want to get a beautiful cover art, maybe internal pictures, I don't know. So artists cost money. And then the next thing is I'm going to have an editor. I have an editor in mind who will not come cheap. So once I get it done and I read it through and I'm satisfied with whatever the arc of the novel, and I'm going to try to write 3 books at one time. So before everything gets done, then I'm going to send those 3 books off to to my editor, and then have an editor come back and destroy it in an editing. So I'll have a third party look at it, a professional editor who will make my writing better, because I'm going to do the best I can and then hand it off to another set of eyes to read it and to make it worthwhile. And so supporting me by buying those hardcovers, that would be great, because then I can hire the editor I want and make this story, make these fantasy novels the best I can possibly make them, make the cover art beautiful. And so this is my little project. Little interesting interlude. Want to know how I write? And that was fiction writing, and I'm no expert. I'm learning along with you. Lamplight, John C. Wright has inspired me. He says you have to honor your muse. Just write when you're at your best. So Danielle's here, and I'm going to leave with this one. It's very good. Leave it at this. Always do your best you can. I keep that with me every day. Thank you, Danielle. And I know you're improving yourself, and you've got a nice family, and you got a lot of love. And I hope this helps you. I don't know what people will think of this video. Leave some comments when the video gets made. I'd like to hear what you think about my little sojourn into writing. It's a little inside. And usually it's a lonely process. I'm just doing it, but it's fun because I'm playing in my mind. I'm playing these characters that are interacting. I'm visualizing the scene. It's like writing a movie. And I will say there's some other stuff, like I've got a map, a big map of my world. So when they journey, I know which direction. I know what the geography looks like. I've got all of my characters in the city. There's the noble houses. So I have the characters, and I have the relationships and the ages and what they look like and the colors. I have a whole thing on that. I have character arc stories on each one. So I have the magic and the way the magic works within the world, and who the evil is and why the evil exists. There's a backstory. There's a history to the city. So there's a whole generations back and how the city came to exist, why they're there, how populated it is. There's a lot of world building decisions that you have to make. Why the city is it, who's in power and who's not, the politics involved, how he gets involved. And I was really inspired by Gorson. There's a lot of politics. He's from the big city. So there's sort of the city, and then there's the farms, and the farms are more simple. City's got a lot more politics. So there's world building involved. And I want that world, what it does, it gives you a richness when you think about it. So sometimes I'll just go and work on that world building part and not actually writing the story, because it's like, well, what is the story? Why is this person here, and who are they, and what were they found? Like Gorson is a great grandson of a founder of the city. And so he has sort of a minor nobility role, but he's on the outside. He's not in the inside circle. He's sort of a secondary figure within the city, just an average dude who has some history going back. And then he enters into this interesting situation that eventually leads him to leave the city. And that's what that part we were writing. There's a lot to it. It's quite a complex story. And then here's another thing about balancing complexity and simplicity. On the one hand, like if you read something like Dune, it's very hard. That first book is hard because there's so many characters and so many things going on, and politics and figures and who's this person. That gets really tricky. And so I don't want it to be incomprehensible when I'm writing it. So what I'm doing is I'm focusing on these characters, and you're viewing the world through these characters at their different locations and exploring the city. All right. And the world. All right. So with that in mind, I'm going to talk to you later. See you later. God bless y'all.